Devlog number 15. Let's talk about some stuff. So last time I had like a lot of bugs that popped up. I got those all fixed in pretty short order. None of them were actually a big deal. So that was cool. Then I moved on to some other stuff that had some kind of cascading effects. I'm not showing the game right now because I need to talk about a few things first. So everything's sort of broken apart and not super showable right now. So after I fixed those bugs, I was exploring the idea of adding some color to icons because it's time to do that. This black and white and alpha color palette restriction just is not doing it for me anymore. What will this look like if I open it? Let's find out. So yeah, over here I have icon versions and terrain tile versions of each tile. So since this is the size of the cell that contains the champion icon and previously just the terrain icon, basically I've expanded these by 1 pixel on each edge and tried some different, adding some color to them. So this is sort of what they would look like. I can show these in game in a moment, but let's not worry about that yet. So yeah, I don't know yet what I want to do with icon color palettes. I mean, I can just treat these as images with any arbitrary color. Maybe that's what I'll end up doing. I want to do some stuff with paletting, though. Anyway, so as I was doing that, I also did a thing where on the encounter setup screen, I removed the available champion list, since now you can go to the go straight to the battlefield view to add a champion, and I wanted it to be only from one place. As soon as I did that, I realized that the UI for the encounter setup screen just was super unfriendly at that point, and you had to know exactly where to point on it and do this weird double-click action to add a champion, which is the very first thing you're going to want to do on that screen. Went on another one of my long walks where I sort of wonder about the state of my project and like, what do I really need to do to get where I need to be? And ended up coming to the conclusion that my entire UI needs an overhaul. I knew it did. I knew this would happen at some point. I wasn't sure I was ready for it. It is in flux. I'll open this and show you what it looks like at startup right now. So this is the new, it's not finished, but this is the beginning of the new main menu, splash screen, whatever you want to call this. So I got a little intro animation there. I was noticing that when the window first opened, it was actually showing a completely blank white window first. I think that was because I was opening the window, then loading all my files and stuff and parsing my JSON and everything, then doing my first draw. So I'm now drawing just a completely blank black window, then parsing the files, then transitioning everything in so that you'll have a seamless application load. My load times are going to be so small that you won't notice, if you don't know to look for it, that there are a couple of black frames at the very beginning before all the textures are in there and stuff. Still needs some work. I'm noticing on Windows I can still see this come up in gray sometimes. It looked real good there. Whoops, whoa. Okay, I can't get it to misbehave right now. But yeah, so that's ideally what I want it to look like. Like as soon as the window is visible in any way, I want the background color to be what it's going to end up being. However, that color will not be black. So right, I got this text here, falling in there, work in progress, etc. The interactive UI slides up from the bottom. This falls down from the top. And yeah, I got all these menu items here. That cursor comes from way down there. I need to fix that. So I laid out, I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but I have sort of a planned application flow for first time on each screen, or like first time in encounter setup and subsequent times. So when you start up this game for the first time, you should see some sort of landing page thing like this, and go straight to new game. So this will be the default option, and I think the continue option just won't even be there. Every subsequent time you start it with some game progress, you'll go to the continue option. And, I'm just carefully analyzing this from the perspective of what's the least number of clicks for the most likely use case in each scenario. So anyway, yeah, so just being super careful about that stuff. Kerning, you need work. Right, so this doesn't actually do anything yet. Ooh. Well, it calls for a transition that doesn't exist. Okay, that's fun. Yeah, preferences doesn't go from there. Scenarios doesn't go from there. I can quit. Okay. And if I press continue or new game now, it just takes me to my old UI with a black background, and that text transitions out. This all still basically works. It looks a little different because the background's black. I can show you, that's what the tiles look like. Everything's weird because it's so black. So that's dirt. That's the dirt icon. This is the dirt tile with color, etc. This one is grass and water. So yeah, this doesn't look super great yet. What does this look like in battle? Can I go to a solution? Sure. Looks like that. Okay, so anyway, yeah, so I'm going to be doing like one screen at a time. I can't actually get back from here to this new menu without quitting and restarting yet. So yeah, everything's all broken apart. I have kind of a rough sketch in vector form of what I wanted that screen to look like. So my thought here, let's open this up in Inkscape. My thought here is I'm going to have, yeah, don't worry about it. Just do that. So some kind of like abstract landscape background, text pops in. If you're curious about the process I used for getting to this, I set down, so first I took a screenshot of a very roughed out, let's see, that won't show up here. Okay, so don't worry about that then. Fine. So I took a screenshot of a roughed out, thing with the buttons there and the little text in the corner. Imported it into Inkscape with the appropriate size. Set down a text field. Apparently the font I used to draw this doesn't exist on the operating system I'm running right now, so let's just pretend this is a different font. Then I created a new layer here on top of the text reference. Let's see, let's pretend. New layer. Inkscape is a super cool program that I like a whole lot. Wasn't that hard to learn. I spent a little bit of time doing it. So this is way too plain a font. I don't want just a system font for the main title of the game. It should be something that stands out. So just using this kind of as a base, I just set down some vector shapes. So what I would do here is just like, say, have kind of an idea of the rough shape I would want for the F in my mind. Set down something like this. So do those, and then change their curves with this sort of tool. Let's see, how do I do this? Is it Alt-click? It's not. Control-click? It is. So okay, maybe I want a sharp curve there. I don't know what I did for the actual one. I want this to be smooth. Control-click, that's the one. So yeah, anyway, vector drawing is super cool. It's a skill that I learned a while ago. Has come in extremely handy, even in a game like this, which is mostly pixely. Does some great things. So yeah, once I had a satisfactory, I don't know, I'm just doing this to demonstrate. It would look something like that. Whoa, not like that. Where's the... Here we go, so full opacity... Why do you still look transparent? What's going on here? I guess you're underneath that layer is what happened. Yeah, okay, got it. Anyway, yeah, so set down something like that. That obviously looks a lot worse than what I ended up drawing here because I spent a lot more time on what's actually there. Yeah, so get that satisfactory, just export each one of these individually, and then I can manipulate them as a texture at the game's native resolution. Now, it is nice to see these all high-res vector, and does make me question my decision of going with this 640 by 360 pixel size canvas here. I think it looks fine like this at that resolution. But I don't know, games like Celeste, for example, have a pixel canvas with high resolution stuff on top of it. I could consider doing something like that, but I don't know, I don't think it makes sense for this game. I'll keep thinking about it. Right, kerning. Move these together. Those are wrong. Why do these look better? This should be the same space as this. Maybe it just looks better because there's a bigger space there. Kerning is tricky and weird like that. So maybe move these apart a little bit, these closer. Okay, anyway. This screen in progress, I'm going to have a background of sorts. The idea was... Why did I close that? Bad habit of mine. The idea was that I'll start with black or, some neutral color. On startup, fade to some kind of abstract landscape sort of thing. And have this background change and mutate as I go through screens, but persist. So there'll be this fixture back here. You go to the preferences screen and maybe suddenly it's sunset or something. And I'm thinking of having maybe a music track that does the same thing. Just have instrumentation come in and out depending on where you are in the UI. I don't know what I'm going to do for music for this game yet. I have thoughts, but I haven't made any steps toward actually writing any or putting it in. Anyway, yeah, so planning out stuff like that. This is kind of a major step that did need to get done. I have a pretty clear idea of how I want this screen to look and work. Preferences, about help, scenario screen. This screen is changing completely. I've always planned not to just have lists here, but this will actually be a spatial, hierarchical branching map sort of thing. So, you'll see this in a box on screen. Then maybe when you clear it, two more will open up as branches off of that path. I don't have a super clear idea of exactly how that's going to look, but behaviorally, that's what I'm thinking for this. Yeah, and then just kind of an evolution on this screen and the battle screen to be more usable. Yeah, so it's going to be great, but it's all pretty broken apart right now. At the same time, I was working on some technical stuff, back-end things that I just didn't really want to deal with because they're a pain. On Windows especially, I don't know how much you can hear it, but there's a fair bit of audio latency here. Between taking the action and actually hearing the audio come out, there is a noticeable delay, and that's always bothered me. I have implementations of 2 different audio APIs on Windows already, and both of them have this problem. There's a third one that I'm looking into to see if I can get it to behave better. But I don't know, integrating with system APIs is always just a major pain, and I don't like to do it. Another thing I was doing was making sure that this builds and runs on my phone, because I was planning to go to the Game Developers Conference, which was coming up in March. It's March now, in a few weeks from now, and have this game on my phone to show around while I was there, which I tried to have last year when it was in the state that it was then, but didn't quite manage it by that time. Unfortunately, that conference has now been cancelled due to public health concerns, so sadly I won't be going there. At least not this year, at least not this spring. There was some talk of rescheduling it for the summer or something. So anyway, I've cancelled my travel plans and stuff. If nothing else, hopefully next year that can be a thing, but that kind of deprioritizes the Android build for this. I would like to have this game available on Android at release, because I think it'd be cool to be able to play just the same thing, on your phone or tablet or whatever, as you play on the desktop, because it could totally work in that form factor, but that is also an important consideration for this UI overhaul, because a lot of stuff needs to get bigger. For example, at phone size, I don't want to be aiming for this tiny little targets. Even just these rows in this, well, that's about the same size, That height is just too small for a finger on a phone. So building in some flexibility for how large things are, just so it's not annoyingly large on the desktop, like it seems like every website is these days, just so that it also works with the touch screen. Anyway, yeah, so thinking about stuff like that, I'm happy with the trajectory of this splash screen main menu thing, but there's a long way to go with it yet. So yeah, just wanted to keep you all in the loop of what's going on. Still working hard on this game every single day. Haven't missed a day since whenever it was that this started. Yeah, so hopefully I'll be back with something a little more polished here and maybe some new screens here. Yeah, so right, the idea being that the background persists. The text kind of flies in here, then flies away when you go there. Might come back when you go back to that screen. Things will move around, like the way that the UI slides up from the bottom there. Yeah, so just a bunch more of that stuff. This is a preview of things to come. So yeah, I'll see you when this is a bit farther along and I have something actually to show. Yeah, should be cool.